Okay, we are live. Hey everybody, my name's Rob and I run the channel ODAT Gambling Awareness. Today, I'm doing a little live stream to talk about my story of gambling addiction, answer any questions that you in the audience might have about gambling, addiction recovery, gambling addiction in general, and hopefully over the next hour or so, answering those questions in a way that helps you to know that you're not alone and that if you are struggling, there is help here and help out there. So, if it's your first time seeing me, I hope that I can provide value to you today. And if it's good value and you enjoy what you watch, make sure that you subscribe or follow so that I can help continue to allow you to not go down the same path that I did. And while we wait for people to tune in, I'm just going to start yapping. So I made my last bet November the 12th of 2022. The last day that I gambled was a 12-hour binge gambling session. And over the course of that 12 hours, I lost a lot of money, yes, and I maxed out credit cards to the point that I was working the next 6 months for about 70, 80 hours a week to try to pay it off. But what actually got me to stay away from gambling wasn't the lost money, it was actually having this thought. So when I had that money, I dropped it by accident once in the bathroom of that casino, and I scrambled and my heart was racing and I was sweating and I was trying to pick everything up. And I had this thought, it was just like, man, why even pick that money up? Just throw it back on the floor. Because if you throw that money back on the floor, someone else might leave with it. But if you don't and you go out and keep it, you're just going to gamble that money away. And so this thought that I had of just like, what's the point anymore? I didn't have it anymore. Let's see. Please note this. Comments on the stage. I don't know. So if you're in the chat, do me a favor and drop a comment. Let me know what's up. Let me see if we are able to receive comments because as of now, we don't have any, which is tough. So if you're in the chat, please drop any questions that you might have about gambling, gambling addiction, or addiction recovery. Thank you. We got one, Brad. You're the GOAT, getting us started. All right. What was the turning point for me? I mean, other than that story, right? Like to sum it up, the turning point for me was when I was asking myself, why was I gambling? And I no longer had an answer. I always said stuff like, I'm going to get rich. I'm going to be a pro gambler. Like, this is going to be what I do with my life. I'm going to prove that I know what's going on. I prove that I'm good at this. And then, after enough years of just doing it for absolutely no reason, no true reason, I didn't have an excuse anymore that made any sense. Like, I was just gambling because I was used to gambling. I wasn't gambling for the enjoyment. I wasn't gambling to even win. I was just gambling because that's what I thought I did every day, right? Like, that's all that my life was. It's 24/7 preoccupation with this thing. If you're struggling with online gambling, you're in the exact right spot. I'm sharing my story here today in hopes that you can avoid going down the same path with your life that I did with mine. And the number one way you can support this, other than being subscribed and showing up, is just hitting that like button. It gets it pushed out to more people, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook today. You've been binge watching the videos. I appreciate you being here and doing that, Sharina. I really hope that they can be helpful. When I put out a video, the hope is that it can answer some kind of question or raise some kind of awareness about this disease. Do I ever plan on writing a book? Dante would be super cool to write a book. Time constraint wise, I cannot get myself to sit down and do it long enough. I'm 100% ADHD, even though I've never gotten the formal diagnosis. And every time I have it in my head that I should write a book, I get this intense inspiration to do it, and then it's gone within a day. And so, if I wanted to do it, it would require it becoming like a top three focus in my life. And at this point, I'm going to keep pushing out the videos. Hopefully, one day, the videos are starting to sustain themselves and can take a little bit more time. That's when I would want to do it. Mark, I made my last bet November the 12th of 2022. And so I haven't gambled since that point. If you tell yourself that you're going to stop and then you end up going back to it over and over again, obviously it's a clear sign that it's become a real problem in your life. And that's hence why we're probably here talking today. But realistically, it also means that something about the process in which you're trying to quit isn't up to par. Something that you're doing or you're missing something that you should be doing. And so if you're watching on Facebook, but if you come over to YouTube, in the description of this video, I have a video called How I Stopped Gambling or How I Quit Gambling. And it's 1 hour, it's long as hell, but it lays out everything that I did to stop. And to really sum it up for you, even though I still recommend watching it, was finding alternative things to do with my time, limiting my access to money that was going to tempt me to gamble by having my family control my bank account, self-excluding and using something like Gamban, even if you want to block it on your websites or if you want to block websites on your devices, and going to support group meetings. So if you're not doing some variation of these 4 things, there's going to be times where you feel tempted. There's going to be times where you're having that thought of, oh, maybe I'll just give it one more try. And it leads us back into it. So to break that cycle, we need to make sure we're looking at this ahead of time and we're planning for every kind of externality that could pop up. We're planning for when the temptations come along. Can I go to casinos without gambling? I guess. Why would I want to? Although I just recently did go to one because I had to present the other day at a conference in Vegas. For some reason, the conference is held at a casino. Ironic as that might be. But now there's really not that much point to go to one. There's nothing really there for me. Do I still get urges today? Michael, I really can't say that I do at this point. A lot of my urges were motivated by wanting to get rich quick. And I'm seeing now, after working on my business for the last 2.5 years, that the avenue to actually accomplishing that and sustaining it is not quick. And so a lot of the temptations that I used to feel I no longer have because my mindset has changed about gambling. I used to view it as a way to make money, a way to get rich quick, a way to prove myself. And I'm finding other avenues to do that to be much more realistic and much more attainable. Uh, the only other time that an urge would even be considered to pop up is watching a game, I guess, when everyone around me is gambling, which is a rarity. I really don't watch as much sports as I used to. But if you do get urges, it's important that you're prepared ahead of time for them, right? So knowing what you're going to do if you feel an urge will make a big difference when that urge comes around. So at this point, I can't say that I'm, waking up itching to gamble, but if I was, I know exactly what I need to do. And my top tip is to get out of your head. Tell yourself, okay, I want to gamble. I'm going to gamble a couple of hours from now, but until then, I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to call my girlfriend. I'm going to call my friends and see what's going on in life. And then hopefully the urge begins to subside. Because if we boil it down, what is a gambling urge? It's an intense, like momentary urge, momentary feeling that you want to gamble. So if you put some space between the thought and the action, the hope is the urge begins to fade by the time you are actually going to act on it. Let's see. 714 days clean. Alex, congratulations. And Alex was actually featured on the ODAT Gambling Awareness podcast here on YouTube. Thank you for sharing your story. When you have stress in your life, your actual dreams are that you go back to gambling. Is that normal? I've had dreams where, I've been in a casino. When like the dreams really were hitting for me, it wasn't so much like gambling. It was like I was having dreams about getting trespassed. I was having dreams about getting arrested because I'm self-excluded from casinos, and I went into them. I'm not a kind of person that attributes much value to dreams, to be honest. There's more spiritual people that might tell you this is a temptation, this is an underlying belief that you have. I don't know. For me, if a dream is popping up, it's just because your brain is a weird enigma of electrical circuits that just shoots off random stuff. I wouldn't overthink it. And what I would be thinking more is, how can I reduce the stress that I'm feeling? Not adding to it by thinking, well, my dream was about a slot machine, so am I going to relapse? It's just, it might be normal in recovery to have some dreams about things that you think about or talk about, but I wouldn't give it too much value, Alex. I really wouldn't. Did you win before you stopped? No, Mark. No, of course not. Because if you win, you convince yourself to keep going and then you eventually lose. All wins are future losses. Let's see. If anyone has questions about gambling, gambling addiction, or addiction recovery, please drop them in the chat. Whether you're watching live or on the replay, I'm going to do my best to get back to everyone, or at least try to touch on your question if it's a real question. And in the meantime, I want to just plug, if you are someone that is struggling with gambling or you know someone that is, I want you to smash that subscribe button, because here on the channel, my aim is to help you avoid going down the same path that I did, or if you've gone down that path, to help you get help sooner than I did. I want to use my past experiences to create something positive, and I hope that you can see that when you come here on the channel. Let's see. Been sober for a week and a half now. Congratulations. But you're still grieving over the one missed game on the parlay, which could have been the big win from the last bet. Well, John, let's play this tape through. Let's say that you hit that parlay. What would have happened next? Would you have cashed out and retired, paid off all your debts, and been happy for the rest of your life? Or do you think it's more likely that you would have put another bet in? So if we answer that question honestly, I think in this chat specifically, the answer would be, maybe we pay some stuff off, but at the end of the day, we keep gambling, right? Because we had a positive experience with it. Well, what would happen? Eventually, whether it was tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, you'd lose. Maybe even lose more than the amount that you would have won. And so the thought is, what would actually happen? All wins are just future losses. Why are you grieving it? You were going to lose it again anyway. Maybe it would have felt good for a day, but by now, a week and a half later, As a gambling addict, might have been gone already, man. Like, it sucks to lose. It sucks to lose money. It sucks that we might be in debt right now and have to pay it back. But if we're honest with ourselves, were we gonna do anything good with it anyway? Just ask that. Let's see. I see a large message from my friend from Zambia. I won't display it because it's just going to take up too much of the screen, but I want to thank you for being here. And they said that 3 words that are dear to them in recovery are honesty, commitment, and gratitude. That is fantastic. And I hope that you continue to sustain that recovery and continue to help people along with your journey, my friend. Let's see. Was there anything that made you almost gamble again? Earlier on in the recovery process, and now I'm, getting to the point where it's becoming less and less relevant, right? The Eagles played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but it was a few Super Bowls ago, right? So it was February of 2023, and they lost, of course. But the temptation that day was like I was in a room with people. I was throwing like a Super Bowl party, right? And everyone was talking about their bets. Everyone was gambling. So it made me feel like I was missing out. That was the last time I felt like a genuinely very strong urge to gamble. But it was more just like, can I be happy in a room of people doing something that I used to do? And if not, what is stopping me from being happy? So I think that the urges that day were more feeling like, man, I wish I could be like everyone else. I wish I could do what everyone else is doing today. Not so much like I have to gamble to get rich that day. So over the years since that point, I've reached this conclusion that I really don't want to be like everyone else. One, but if I was to go back to gambling and try to gamble like the other people around me, I wouldn't enjoy it anyway. As a compulsive gambler, I needed that hit, that thrill, that big rush. And you're not going to get that from gambling responsibly, right? So I'm someone that just can't gamble, and that's okay. Let's see. Thomas says, I helped him quit gambling after 8 years, ended on a high with a big win. Okay. Thomas, getting a red flag here, my friend. Just be careful here because this is what a lot of people tell themselves, right? I will quit after I win big. I'm very, very happy hearing that I've been helpful and that you've been able to get clean. What a lot of people in this chat are probably thinking is like, man, I'll be like Thomas. I'll get that big win and then I'll quit. The problem is, if you're not immediately assigning that money to something and getting it away from you, you're just reigniting the fuel. Maybe you're keeping that money around so that you have the ability later if you want to just place a little bet. So, Thomas, what I'm telling you here is congratulations for deciding to leave it behind. Get rid of that money. Pay off your debts, give it to a family or friend. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to use that money as an excuse to gamble later. And if you're someone that hasn't gotten that big win and telling yourself that you're going to quit after you get a big win like Thomas, stop lying to yourself. It's an anomaly, and you're going to find yourself going down a very dangerous path because that win might convince you that gambling is okay for you. Be very, very careful. So Australian anti-gambling ads are funded and written by the gambling industry. In your honest opinion, they encourage gambling. You win some, you lose more. Yeah. So there's this big glaring problem that exists that absolutely no one's doing anything about. And it's that the gambling industry funds almost everything related to responsible gambling. You might ask yourself, what the hell is responsible gambling? And if you ask them that, when they tell you to gamble responsibly, there is not an answer. There's no definition of responsible gambling. So, yes, the glaring problem is that all the groups that are helping problem gamblers are funded by the money that you lost. So it's there's only a little bit of motivation to actually help problem gamblers. I'm going to be releasing a documentary in a couple of months that's going to be talking about that. But damn, yeah, it just is the honest truth, right? And that doesn't mean that the people that are putting that ad out don't genuinely hope that it helps people. But it's like when the funding comes from a specific place, it really changes what is said and what biases exist within that. You realize that you don't care about winning anymore. Just knowing that you're sitting in front of a terminal hitting a button for 8 hours a day was enough to make you want to stop. Yeah, done. Congratulations. Then you're pointing out a really interesting point. A lot of people, especially those that don't have a gambling problem, would assume that a gambling addiction is about the lost money. And while that is one of the symptoms, while that is one of the outcomes of a gambling addiction, what's really also about is the lost time, connections, friendships, and mental health that comes with the gambling addiction. As you're sitting there wasting all your time chasing after that win, what are you missing out on in the rest of your life? So, really happy to hear that you've come to that conclusion, my friend, and I'm wishing you well in the journey to recovery. Let's see. Do I think that gambling is more dangerous than drugs? Well, you see, this is one of those weird questions, right? Where I never got hooked to drugs, so I don't actually know how I would feel about it personally. And I don't think comparing across addictions is always very helpful because no matter what you're going through, addiction's addiction. And if you're struggling, it's destroying your life. What I will say is that gambling contains something that's very unique to itself, that is a very big problem for those struggling, that has led to the point that gamblers in or people who have gambling addictions are most at risk of a suicide out of all addictions. And it's the fact that if you decided to stop gambling today and you were a gambling addict, you're likely looking at a couple of months or years of debt to pay off. If you don't know how you're going to do that, and gambling feels like your only way out, which of course that's a false belief, you're in a situation that's very bleak, where you feel like you're up against so much and you'll never be able to get out of it. And so, this added problem of gambling, or the real added problem of gambling, is that you're accumulating debt during your addiction. And you might be in a little bit of debt from alcohol or drugs, but in gambling, money is the fuel, right? So, the fact that we reach this point where we have so many years of debt in front of us, it's very, very disheartening. And it's cyclical, right? Like it makes you think, I need to get a big win to fix this problem, which just leads to bigger losses and more problems. So I think that gambling is particularly dangerous because it's the only addiction where you can quit today and be facing years and years of struggle before you're even able to get back to square one. And that's the real danger of it. Which is why we make content, right? This is why I'm trying to spread awareness because I don't want to see people find themselves in that position. I've been able to help you a lot. Thank you. You're still struggling. You recently quit gambling, but decided you don't want to do it anymore. Well, congratulations, my friend. I'm happy to be a part of your journey. To everyone that's leaving the number of days clean that they've had in the chat, congratulations. To everyone that's here saying that I've been a part of their recovery process, thank you so much. The whole point of creating content on this channel stemmed from me wanting to do something outside of myself. For years, 6 years to be exact, I gambled every single day. And I thought that was the only thing in my life. My entire value of life was dictated by how much money I had won or lost on something outside of my control. Now, the value that I feel, what's the right way? What gives me purpose in my life is creating this content and it is seeing outcomes like this. So to everyone that's saying positive things, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I really appreciate it. And, as a small creator, it's like, these kinds of compliments are what continue to motivate me to make videos because there's days where we put out a video that we worked really hard on and it only gets a couple hundred views. And while that's still maybe helping one person and making us feel good, it's really nice to get this kind of feedback. It's very, very motivational. So thank you all. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. And again, if I'm missing your comment, feel free to comment it again. I'm going to do my best to get to you. Self-excluded from the casino for a year starting last October. Congratulations. Temptations are strong, so I started buying coins from free gambling apps so I could spin the reels. I'm learning from that mistake now. I just recently did an interview with a guy who used to work at one of those free-to-play mobile gaming companies, and they actually use the same tactics as casinos, but on steroids to try to get you addicted to that particular platform. So while it might have felt like a good thing to move from, the casino to like a fake version of it to give yourself a chance to still get that urge out, what's happening is we're not giving our brains the chance to heal, and we're participating in an environment that's actually more addictive than the gambling environment. So basically what I would say to that is the fake slots, watching streamers, these things that are getting our urges out so that we're not actually the ones gambling, still carry a lot of danger. Because if we're not giving our brains the chance to heal and rewire themselves after we quit, we're kind of continuing the addiction to a certain extent. So Bernie, I hope that you're able to leave that behind as well. Let's see. What would your life be like if you never quit gambling? Well, the first obvious point is we would not know each other. We would not be talking to each other right now. The second would be that I'd definitely be living with my family if they wouldn't have given up on me already by this point. I'm 26, so it would be reaching the point where they'd probably be saying, you need to get out of here and try to find your own place. But I obviously wouldn't have any money because I'd be gambling it. I was gambling every single day from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, so I wouldn't have accomplished anything in that time. I'd likely not have my girlfriend. I'd likely be very lonely, maybe experiencing depression, probably gained a bunch of weight from only sitting in my house all day on my phone. If I was going to the gym, I'd be gambling during the entire thing, so the workouts wouldn't be great. Life would be bad if I still had a life at all, to answer that. Let's see. Hi, Shreya. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. What was the hardest part of your gambling addiction to let go of? Um, I would say, the obvious thought would be the ability to accumulate money quickly. But I think that as I came to reality with that, I was recognizing that I was losing more than I was winning, of course. So it's not that. I'd say that what is the hardest part to let go of is the fact that gambling for a very long time for me was how I spent my day. So it became my identity. I was the gambler. And I knew what I could do all day was place bets. And so I knew basically what my schedule was, right? I thought I knew what my purpose was. And so the hardest part of it to let go is the identity. What do you do when you have 8 hours a day that you didn't have before and you have to fill it with something? I think that was the hardest time. I lost my identity as a gambler. Let's see. Hmm. Kai, thank you for the love. The overlying, rather the overlying, I don't think that's even a word. The underlying question here is, how do we deal with gambling urges? Well, there's a few tips that I can give you, but at the end of the day, it comes down to filling your time with things that are productive so that you stop feeling gambling urges. Easier said than done. What I would say is if you're sitting there and it's been a couple of days since you gambled and you're having this urge, you need to ask yourself, why? Why am I feeling this urge and how can I adapt it going forward? There's no one size fits all answer to this question because everyone has urges for a different reason. Are your urges happening because you're down money right now and you have debts? If so, what I would tell you to do is get another job because you're going to be on the grind and you're not going to be thinking about the urges. Are your urges happening because you're bored? If so, what can you do to fill that time? Again, it's going to be different for everyone. Maybe you're a sports person, maybe you're not. Maybe you're an artist, maybe you're not. You got to find things to fill that time to be productive. If you're experiencing an urge, there's something missing, or there's something that your brain is tricking you into thinking is missing. So you need to prepare ahead of time for those urges and know what activity to do to move so that you're not sitting around just thinking about gambling all day. Mm. Thomas, thanks for the love, my friend. I appreciate it. I think that we're most qualified to help the person that we used to be. And so the fact that I'm able to use the negative things that happened in my life to create hopefully positive outcomes for other people is a gift. And I'm really happy to be able to do it as my full time career. And the way that I'm able to do it as my full time career, which thanks for this, Thomas, so that I can say this, is if you subscribe to the channel. You sound like a broken record when you ask people to hit that button over and over again. But realistically, the only way that this channel gets discovered is if people are subscribing to it and are watching the videos. It helps more people to find the content, and who knows who's out there that might need to hear that they could have a gambling problem or might need to hear where they can get resources. So you're not just helping yourself when you hit that button, and you're not just helping me. Hopefully, you're helping someone that needed the content that didn't know that it existed. If you keep gambling, you will lose money. That is the easiest way to answer this statement. That's it. Let's see. Let's see. Do I have any hobbies or any physical activities that I do? So physical activities, I've definitely fallen off, but I was hitting the gym. I was running more, pickleball, hot yoga, tennis, basketball. These are things I want to start doing a little bit more because I've really become very busy with my time. But I want to get back to it. Hobbies. Just started playing Pokemon again. Call me what you want to call me. I don't care. It's awesome. And I want to go to the World Championships. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. I think they're in San Francisco next year. And I want to learn how to play a little bit more competitively. So I guess you could say video games to a certain extent, but be careful not to be playing the games that are loot boxes or pay to play. Like, find things to do with your time that aren't going to cost you major amounts of money that are going to keep you interested and challenge you. Maybe it's not Pokemon, but if it is, maybe we can play each other one day. I don't know. How are you addressing your character defects as in the bad traits you developed during addiction times? How are you making yourself better in relation to those behaviors? Well, you'd be talking about step 4 from the 12 steps, right? So you're talking about taking personal inventory, accountability, and then trying to fix those problems through making amends, through trying to become a better person, which are the later steps. How am I doing it? Still very slowly. There's lots of things that I do that are probably still symptomatic of my gambling days, my thought processes, my preoccupation with maybe content creation at this point. But what I would say is if you're focusing on getting 1% better every day, you're going to get better. How am I handling these? I'm being honest with myself. If you have character defects and you're honest about them, the solutions are really usually very obvious. I think that the entire niche of self improvement is wildly obvious, but you just sometimes need someone to remind you what to do, even though you already know yourself, right? Like if you want to lose weight, you need to eat fewer calories than you're burning off, or you need to be in a deficit rather, right? It's very, very simple, but we overthink it and we have all these different dieting plans and workout plans and like all these different things. The end solution to a lot of these problems is very simple. And same with gambling addiction, right? A gambling addiction, how do you cure yourself? You stop gambling. And of course, that's easier said than done, which is why you need to put things in place ahead of time, like finding alternatives for your time, limiting access to money, doing self exclusions, and going to support group meetings. But at the end of the day, what gives you your positives in life, what helps you to battle these character defects and become a better person is not gambling, right? But it's like one day at a time kind of thing. Let's see. Oh, this is a fire quote. I don't know how I can use this, but I want to use it at some point. The best way to double your money is to fold it and put it in your pocket. That's awesome. Let's see. Can we beat this addiction on our own? I'm clean for 21 days and I didn't get any help. Can we say the best way is to insulate ourselves, that it's all a big fat lie? Well, Alahan, there's definitely some value in the latter part of that, right? Insulating ourselves, not insulating ourselves, but rather remembering that the gambling is a lie. If you remember that you're being sold a dream by the casinos, by the influencers, then that's going to be good motivation to help you stay away. What I would say to the point of trying to recover on your own is why? Why do you want to? Right? So a lot of times people say, I want to recover on my own because I don't want anyone else to know that I have a gambling problem. Well, that sounds like a symptom of the gambling problem. Why don't you want other people to know about it? Then they might hold you accountable, right? So ask yourself, why do you want to do this alone? Why do you not want a support group? Why do you not want to tell someone else? Why do you not want a system of support in your life? Is it possible? I don't know. Probably. It's probably possible for me to go out and run a marathon right now without training, but I sure as hell don't want to do it. So I think that there's real value in building a community. Rob, after you quit gambling, did you have to stop watching sports for a little? I find it hard watching games without money on it after I quit. Yeah, it's like watching paint dry, isn't it? It's pretty shit. So I don't really watch sports that often now, and it's been 2.5 years. I'm not watching them because they tempt me. I'm not watching them because it makes me want to gamble. I'm just not watching them because I'm not that interested in them. I used to think that I was a huge sports fan, right? Like the biggest in the world. And then when I was gambling, I thought I was like the number one sports fan on earth. Then when I stopped, I didn't want to watch it anymore because I realized I wasn't a sports fan, I was a gambling fan. So at this point in my life, like I'll watch maybe like a game 6 or 7 of the NBA playoffs. I'll watch like a good Phillies game that's in the ninth inning. Like I'll watch the things that are interesting. But you're not going to catch me watching the first quarter of a football game anytime soon. So what I would say is you might think that you need sports, but you don't. And if you can't watch them without wanting to gamble, or when you watch them, you feel bored, just know that there's a million other things you can do with your time. And if that temptation to watch comes back one day, that's great, as long as it's not making you want to gamble. But it's going to be up to you individually to decide, can I watch this without gambling on it? Do I think that gambling is a coping strategy, and that's one of the reasons it becomes addictive? Certainly can be, Paul. I mean, many people gamble to escape worry, trouble, boredom, loneliness, grief, and loss, as the 12-step book will tell us. It can be 100%. It wasn't really for me. It became more of my identity, but yes, absolutely, it can be a coping mechanism. Of course, it creates more problems, which is a bad thing for a coping mechanism to do, but that's just kind of the reality of it. Thank you for the videos. They show up to remind me. That's the whole point, my friend. That's the whole point, and I'm really happy that's the case. Can you request to get banned from the casino? Yes. It depends where you are and what casino it is, what the process will be, but it's called self-exclusion is what you're referring to. And in some states, like the state of New Jersey, it's one website, you fill out one form, and you're banned from all the casinos in the state. In some places, that doesn't exist, so you have to ban yourself at each individual place that you play or each website. It's usually in the contact us or like the privacy policy section. It's usually in like the RG section, the responsible gambling section of a website. And then if you're in a casino, they'll usually direct you to the security desk to do so. It's a really shitty process that I hope becomes better one day soon. But yes, it's absolutely possible. And it's one of the things that I did. It's one of the four key things that I did to stop gambling myself. Let's see. How did your mental health improve when you quit gambling? I would say that once I quit gambling, I stopped having the majority of the problems that I was having in life because I was depressed and I was anxious. But really, I was depressed because I lost a bunch of money and friendship and time. And I was anxious because I wanted to get it back and I didn't know how. So my mental health naturally improved as I started to stay away from gambling because gambling was the cause of the large majority of the problems that I was giving in my life. Let's see. The hardest part of letting go of the addiction is feeling that I don't have some type of control of my feelings, my finances, my identity. I'm a much better person when I'm not in the gambling mindset, and I wish I could recognize that when I have the urgency to control something. I try to think in 1 day increments just today. Sue, that's a great thing to think 1 day at a time. Now, why is it that it's so hard? Because we don't have a sense of control. This is fascinating to someone that doesn't have a gambling problem, right? What do you mean you don't have a sense of control? You don't have control when you're gambling. You can't control if it lands red or black. You can't control what that next spin's going to bring. Like, that's the obvious truth. But I get you. Because when I was gambling, the control that I felt is that I knew what I'd be doing with my time. I knew how I'd be feeling. It was either a good or bad feeling, but I knew predictably it was going to be one of the two. So it's this weird sense of control, right? I can tell you with 100% confidence because I'm living it now. Once you leave gambling in the past and the thoughts begin to slip away of, I need to gamble to feel okay again, I need to gamble to feel in control, you realize that you have control of your feelings. You might not control like what immediately hits you. Like if you're on a plane and you're stuck on a tarmac and you're annoyed because you've been sitting there for an hour, you can't control that, but you can control what you tell yourself about it. So this sense of control, it feels like we get it from gambling, from knowing that we're going to be in action. But in reality, that's where we're in the least control. And in time, you're going to feel that. You're going to begin to experience the sense of control that comes with a life clean from gambling. But thank you for the comment. If you keep relapsing, and I'm just going to say this very bluntly, there's something messed up about your recovery. There's something missing. You've messed something up. And that's okay. I did it too, many times. Now, what is the thing that could be messed up? In my recovery, I focus on four things. It's finding alternatives for my time, limiting access to my finances, self-excluding to make it more difficult, and going to support group meetings. Which of these four things aren't you doing? Are you sitting around bored all day wanting to gamble? Do you have access to your bank account? Could you log into the casino right now if you wanted to? And do you go to a support group meeting? I'm guessing probably not as often as you should. So that's not even a knock on you. It's just like a lot of people think, I'm going to quit gambling. I'll just delete the apps and not think about it anymore. But then a temptation comes around and you relapse, right? So you have to plan ahead of time. And putting those four things in place for me is what really helped me to recover. And if you're on YouTube, check out, just leave this live right now. Check out in the description. There's a video called How I Quit Gambling, How I Stopped Gambling. Just watch that because that's going to be of more value to you at this point right now. What does a gambling addict's day even look like? Wake up, gamble all day, win, lose, gamble more, maybe eat dinner, maybe not because you're feeling too nauseous because you just gambled too much, and then gamble before you go to sleep and wake up and do it again. If you wanted to get into anti-gambling content or gambling awareness content, what would be my tips? Get ready for a bunch of people to tell you that everything you're doing is stupid. That's what I would say. Number one tip is just do it and keep going over and over again. I post it every single day, despite what people might have said or thought for the last 2.5 years. And most of the videos don't do that well. That's the reality of it. So what happens a lot is someone will share their story once and then be like, wow, okay, I got a little bit of traction. Let me do it again. And then the next video doesn't get as many views. And you're like, maybe I'll just stop doing this. Maybe I will, maybe I'll just, it's not going to work, right? It's a waste of time. So you need to keep posting regardless of results every single day. And once you develop a consistency, you'll begin to see some long-term sustained results. That's what I would say. To this guy, I honestly can tell you exactly what you're going to do, regardless of what I say. So in 2 weeks, please just come back. If you'd like to be a guest on the channel and share your story of gambling addiction, please send me an email, robodaat@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to get back to you. I'm going to be doing some more recordings in early July. So if you send me an email, hopefully we can get your story shared online. I'm going to put it in the chat, my email, hit me up, and hopefully we can get you on to share your story. Let's see. Always seeing my Binance wallet or cryptocurrencies makes you want to gamble. Do you recommend you to delete them? Um, Here's the thing. Yeah, the obvious answer is yes. You should like make it out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. But the more concerning thing is that if you see like an ad about Bitcoin or like someone mentions Bitcoin, you're gonna be like, I want to gamble now. I'm triggered. The way more important thing for you to be doing instead of just deleting it, which is still a good step, but the way more important thing is to go to a support group meeting. If every time you see a number on a screen or every time you hear something about cryptocurrency, it's going to make you want to gamble, you are living in a world where it's just a ticking time bomb until you place your next bet. You need to begin the process of recovery, not just running away from it. So it's finding alternative things to do with your time, limiting your access to the temptation by deleting it, yes, of course, but having someone else manage it could even be a great step, and going to support group meetings. Like people will say, man, I hate seeing gambling ads. I just want to block them all. Yeah, you can block them all, but you're eventually going to see one anyway. And when you see one, is that going to be your excuse to go back and gamble? So like a lot of tips that people would give you are kind of half-assed lies, right? I could tell you, oh yeah, just delete it, just block it, out of sight, out of mind. It'll never happen again. It's just not true. We're not living in a world where that's the case. And so it's to begin the process of your recovery more than just running away from the problem. You can run away, but it's going to catch you. The things of don't go in a gambling establishment anymore, don't talk to people who gamble, they're not realistic tips anymore. It's only a matter of time until that temptation comes from another form. So be prepared ahead of time and know what you're going to say and do. So if you're in this chat, do me a favor and drop a like on the video. It'll help more people to see it, and we'll get this pushed out to more people. For the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be taking questions about gambling, gambling addiction, and addiction recovery. I'm Rob, who made his last bet on November the 12th of 2022. Since that point, I've been creating content aimed at helping you to avoid making the same mistakes that I did while spreading awareness that gambling addiction is real. If you hit that subscribe button by accident, would love it, or on purpose, would love to have you join the community. Let's see. Can you watch a show or game these days without seeing the ads? Suicide rates from gambling must be on the rise, right? Yes. You'll never watch a game without seeing the ads. That's just the reality of it. And suicide rates are on the rise. Yes. It's 1 in 5 people with a gambling addiction will attempt suicide at some point during their addiction and or after. Yeah, it's very disheartening, and I would imagine that we begin to see more people struggling. Yeah, we're literally gambling with lives. Quite literally. Your life is boring and you're extremely depressed, which increases your urge to gamble. Andres, you are stuck in the loop of addiction. That's what it is. Why do you feel like life is boring? I felt the same way. And I felt like life was boring when I wasn't gambling. The only thing that felt good was when I was gambling. But the reason that I felt that way is because gambling changed the structure of my brain to make me believe that the only thing that made me feel pleasure was gambling. A gambling addiction is not only just this temptation to gamble, but it's actually the rewiring of your brain. And your brain comes to believe that the only thing that will help you to survive, to make you feel okay, is gambling. It's a cycle. And so when you stop gambling, you feel like life is awful because you're bored. You have nothing to do with your time. But as you stay away, and as you continue to string along days not gambling, your brain begins to heal itself, and you reach this point where the temptations begin to subside. You will get there, but it's really, really tough at first, and I know. Let's see. Do I think the GA yellow combo book is outdated? I mean, yes, to a certain extent, right? But I think that the reason it is because of two things. My biggest problem with Gamblers Anonymous is that we don't market it. The whole point of not marketing Gamblers Anonymous was because we didn't want people who weren't ready to quit gambling to come into the meetings, right? We wanted people to come there after they've experienced enough that they're ready to leave it behind. It's the only requirement to quit is that you want to stop. We need to market this because we're allowing people to go through years of extra pain that they otherwise would not have before they begin to seek out help. Additionally, things like online gambling have just changed some of the realities. Like, I am a 26-year-old guy, and I don't think, honestly, I do not think that if I tried to make a group of 10 friends, none of them would be gambling. I don't think it's realistic anymore. If I have a group of 3 friends, maybe. But this idea that we can't go in or near gambling establishments, be friends with anyone who gambles is just not realistic because every gambling establishment is just right here on the phone. And every person that we talk to seems to gamble to a certain extent, right? Maybe they're not addicted to gambling. That's still a good tip. Don't hang out with people addicted to gambling that are going to continue to make you gamble. But it's like some parts of it just need to get tweaked a little bit to be more realistic to the modern day. The idea of the 12 steps, though, remains the same, and it's still incredibly valuable. Let's see. So I'm not going to display it because it's too long of a message and it'll cover up the screen, but I want to thank you for being here. Um, you know, the idea that having someone manage our finances, I think a lot of the times we don't want to do it because we want to have a sense of control. We want to feel like we are able to take care of ourselves, especially as adults, right? But like having my mom manage my finances as a 24-year-old didn't put me in the running for sexiest man alive or anything, but it really made it helpful when I would have a temptation that I didn't have access to the money to just burn it, right? To light it on fire. So that extra block, that extra bit of space really did help me. Let's see. I'm really glad you came across my content as well. I post every single day with the hope that this exact thing happens. I want to help people who are in that exact same spot that I was. And I know that the weeks and months right before you quit gambling are usually the hardest. So my goal is to keep making content that hopefully helps to bridge that gap in getting that help. Because I didn't know at all where to get help for a gambling problem when I wanted to quit. I thought that I was the only person on earth that could have this problem, that it was an insane problem to have, and that gambling wasn't a real addiction. These were genuinely the thoughts that I had, and for a very long time, I believed they were true. But it's absolutely not the case. I just took a look at the subscriber count, and a lot of you just joined up in the community. So I just want to thank you for being here and welcome you. It's been a very long journey to reach a point where we're able to reach this many people online, and hopefully it continues to help. It is a bit of a sad thing, though, right? That we're going to see gambling addiction continuing to rise and more people beginning to struggle. My hope is that by being here, by sharing the story, I can help people get that help faster than they otherwise would have. So if you have any questions about gambling, gambling addiction, my story of addiction, please ask them in the chat. And I hope that I can be helpful to you today, tomorrow, and whenever you might stumble on this video. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay. I hope that it can help. Because again, I felt very, very alone, especially in the beginning of this thing. And don't be nervous about asking questions either. I mean, I don't know you. I'm not gonna look into you. So if you ask a question, feel like it's a safe space to ask the questions. And I wish I could play some music, but YouTube would copyright strike that immediately. They're a lot more strict than TikTok would be. Unfortunate. But let me scroll back and see if we got any more questions that I missed. Let's see. Oh, we got a new one. Good question. Do I drink alcohol? Yeah. People will ask, like, do you think that you can develop another addiction? I think the answer is definitely yes, but I've never felt the same way about anything else in my life that I felt about gambling. When I gambled, it was this intense rush, and it felt like it was solving all my problems. When I drink, I mean, maybe I drink too much sometimes, but I never felt the same dependency from it. I'm conscious of that now to make sure that I don't fall down the same path, but I think we know ourselves better than anyone else, right? And I know I'm not addicted to anything else at this point, except maybe, just maybe, making content. But I think I'm okay with that, if so, you know. And again, ask any questions that you might have about gambling, gambling addiction, addiction recovery. And if not, then we will probably just go for a few more minutes. Let's see. All right, we got some. All right, no, we're good. We got questions rolling in. You guys are the best. Here we go. Here we go. Yes, there's a lot of people out there promoting gambling as fun, and they are getting paid millions and millions of dollars to convince you to do so. So these people are sponsored by the casinos they play at. They get free things, comps, promotions, even direct paychecks. And then the online streamers will get you to sign up for whatever platform they represent. They get paid portion of your losses forever. So if anyone's out there telling you that gambling is a great thing that's going to make you rich, they are getting rich when you gamble. Just so you know that. Do I go to in-person meetings or online meetings? Sue, I go to an in-person meeting every Tuesday that I'm home and able to go to that. I've been to online meetings. They just don't feel like the same quality of connection for me. I mean, we can play some elevator music, but I'm not gonna be like jamming to it, you know? Like I really liked when I used to go live, I had like this EDM instrumental playlist on TikTok that I thought was just straight bangers, but we're not there yet. Let's see. Do I think it's worth cutting out all addictions beyond gambling if you're addicted to it? Absolutely. Do you mean cutting out like all vices in general, even if you're not addicted to it? I'm not even saying that, you know. Life is about trial and error and making mistakes and correcting it. What I would say is if you know that you're struggling with something, not to keep doing it for the sake of just, running away from the problem. So, do you have to never drink again because you're addicted to gambling? Absolutely not. Your story is different. You can control it and used to play slots only with the free matchups. Your partner, however, couldn't control it and spent hours in the arcades to stop her going. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. Very supportive of you. Mm. Online gambling ruined gambling. Nate, I think online gambling has just sped up the speed of play that people are experiencing years worth of addiction in just a couple of days. And I think that's kind of the worst part of it. Um, just very disheartening to see, right? Like if you had to drive to a casino and you could only play a certain number of hands on a blackjack table, for instance, per minute, you could do a lot of damage to your life. You could ruin your life, certainly, but it wouldn't really happen in one day. Now, with the speed of play, the frequency has increased to such an insane point online that people are literally lighting their life on fire in a couple of minutes. And so I think that's why we're going to begin to see younger and younger people entering recovery, is because people are experiencing the problems faster than ever. So online gambling was like a nitro boost to gambling addiction. Clark, thank you so much for being here and congratulations on the month free. Yes, I've seen a lot of people from the Philippines reaching out, especially in regards to like how can they get help. I know of a couple of GA meetings over there, but I'm hoping to see, more recovery resources coming your way. In the meantime, I hope that my channel can be helpful. And again, congratulations on the time clean, my friend. Your mom passed away at 8 a.m. yesterday and you spent a few days on her couch. The hospital kept me out of the casino. I don't want to go back. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your loss, my friend. I am sorry to hear about your loss, and I'm thankful that you've had the time clean. But major losses like that can serve as major temptation points, right? So in the next couple of days, what I would really recommend is going to as many support group meetings as possible, my friend, because I know that during periods of trauma or periods where I was really sad or bad things were happening, that made me want to gamble more to escape it. Have your defenses up on high, keep sticking to your plan of recovery. And once again, I'm sorry for your loss. What's the best part of being sober from gambling? I'm not in horrible poverty 24/7. The best part is being able to live without struggle. Not every day is an intense thrill, but when I was gambling, I literally could not afford anything. And now the best part is being able to do nice things again in life without it ruining my life when I go out to eat or something like that. Did I experience recovery fatigue in the beginning? Could you define recovery fatigue, Holly? I've never heard that term, but I'm interested in hearing more. Let's see. Starting the process today, Tyler. Congratulations on starting the process today. Sorry to hear about recent losses. What I would say is, that first day can be very, very difficult, but I'm proud of you for taking that step. I hope that the meeting today can actually really help you go into it with an open mind, listen to the story of other people, and recognize that you're not alone in this at all. Any advice on how to deal with emotions after losing? What I would say the best tip I ever heard was that all wins are future losses, and the amount of money that you lost, it was only going to increase if you kept going. So the intense emotions are like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Oh, how could I be so stupid? Oh, I just wish I could go back in time and change this. Or like, oh, why I could get one more win and solve the problem. Everything that you're saying is making it worse in your head. That's the amount of money that you had to lose to learn that gambling was always going to end that way. See it as a tuition payment. a tuition payment that was overpriced, just like my regular tuition payment. Recognize that life was only going to get worse if you kept going, and that'll help you. I was one of the first people that you followed when you decided to seek sobriety. Well, thank you for being here. I hope that there's more people creating content just like this pretty soon. There's only a few that I know of, but definitely subscribe to their channels and check them out as well. Some that come to the top of my mind that could also help sustaining recovery are the Broke Girl Society with Christina. The Modern Meeting podcast is new with Adam. Fall In with Dave Yeager if you are in recovery and you're a veteran. That's a great podcast for you as well. But yeah, I hope we do see more people out there sharing their content, sharing their stories, because not a lot of people are willing to admit that they have a problem and then share it with the world. But when they do, it can make a huge impact. And I hope that we keep seeing that. See, one of your vids really hit me. You said you have to replace gambling with something else, even if it's not as addictive as gambling. 100%. And yes, so I'll go put up your next comment because yes, no good sitting watching the grass grow and being bored. Same with smoking. Yeah, one guy that I saw I met in a support group meeting. He unfortunately passed away at a support group meeting, which was a strange day. But he gave me like the weirdest piece of advice I ever heard. He said, "You should go out back and watch the grass grow because that's better than gambling." And I was like, "I'm not gonna do that," but the point is actually very true. Doing other things with your time to fill your time will keep you away from gambling. It's just about finding things that give you a sense of meaning or purpose as well. And for me, it became creating content. For someone else, it could be starting a charity, going to volunteer, like writing, reading, journaling, making art. Like it could be literally anything, but it has to matter to you. And that's a big thing. So it's not necessarily having to watch the grass grow and be bored, but that's a better alternative to gambling, of course. And if you're someone with a gambling addiction, literally finding anything else that isn't, alcohol or drugs is probably a good path. So if you're in this chat right now, do me a favor and hit that like button. It'll get this pushed out for the last couple of minutes. We'll get a couple more people in here that otherwise might not have seen it. And hopefully we can answer a few more questions about gambling, gambling addiction, and addiction recovery. And go ahead and drop any questions that you got. I'm from New Jersey in the United States, if anyone was curious. So I'm on the East Coast, but I've been traveling around the country for the last couple of months in way, way too many flights, sharing my story of gambling addiction across the country. Just yesterday, or the day before rather, I was in Vegas, and then yesterday I was in Baltimore, sharing my story in presentations. Do I think that buying crypto like XRP is gambling? Also, I recommend not doing it, especially right now, John. Just given the circumstances, it definitely can be. When it comes to investing, the way that I was doing investing was 100% gambling. I was buying on leverage, trading options, buying risky stocks, risky cryptos, trying to get rich quick. If you're going to buy and hold something for 5 years, you're probably not gambling and rather you're investing. But I would not recommend getting into it, especially right now. You were gambling and then saw my video. You keep spiraling when you get emotional. How do you avoid the urge? It's literally unstoppable. Well, if you don't have to avoid the urge. That's kind of the wrong way of thinking about it. If you're going to feel these hits of emotion, but you're going to feel the hits of emotion, it's not about avoiding the urge. It's about dealing with the urge when it comes. So if you know that every day at 2 o'clock, when you're sitting on your couch, you get bored and you want to gamble, well, make a plan for 2 o'clock so that you're not sitting on the couch. Or if you know you have to sit on the couch at 2 o'clock, make a plan so that you don't have your phone. Or if you have to have your phone, make a plan so that you don't have access to your bank account. Or if you need access to your bank account, make a plan so that you don't have access to the casino, right? It's not about avoiding the urge. It's about preparing for when that urge inevitably hits. We can't run away from the problem. We can just recognize the tools that we need when the problem does arise. So it's going to change based on everyone's individual situations, but be prepared ahead of time. And the 4 things that helped me were finding alternatives for my time, filling the time with something that meant something to me, limiting my access to money by having my family manage the bank account, self-excluding to make it more difficult to gamble, and going to support group meetings. Those 4 things together really helped me. And when I would have urges, it wouldn't matter. I would be miserable for a few minutes, but then I'd be okay. Mhm. Let's see. Love New Jersey? Well, gotta love New Jersey. You were in Raritan. So I'm from South Jersey, so like North Jersey's an enigma to me. I don't know anything about it. Outside of making content, what else changed in life? I started doing hot yoga at the time, like every day, which was intensely difficult, but it was like a nice challenge. reading more, I was writing more, I was seeing my friends more. In the beginning, I even drank a little bit more, which wasn't a good thing, health-wise. But what it was more was like going out with my friends, spending time outside of myself, getting out of my own head was very important. And then, of course, the content creation was the major driver for me. Yeah, Tyler, I got you though. Yeah, carrying around a bunch of money to gamble is a major temptation that's just unnecessary, right? Like when I quit and I had my mom control my bank account, I only carried around a couple $100 every week, and it was to cover my basic groceries and like meals and expenses. There was a little bit for going out with friends, but it was way more about just like if I have access to this bank account and there's money in there, I'm going to spend it. And I knew that about myself. So I needed to prepare ahead of time so that I didn't have the chance to actually do it. It was just like really straightforward, but I didn't want to give up the access because I wanted to like maintain this control in my life. I wanted to be independent, but the excuses that I was making up were really just so that I could keep gambling. That was the truth. Let's see. Do you find a lot more spare change, and what do you treat yourself with? I mean, it's not necessarily spare change. It's like I'm earning and I'm not losing it, right? So I have more money definitely. What do I treat myself with? I hired an editor so that I don't have to do as much editing. I spend an absurd amount of money every single month, but now everything that I do is done with intention rather than done just because I wanted to do it, right? So I think that what's changed is I now think through the decisions that I make, and that could mean going out to eat. It could mean going on a vacation, but for the most part, it's reinvesting into myself and into my business. This is an interesting one. Did your rock bottom feel more like a relief or a punishment? I would say it felt more like a relief in a weird way. So, what I considered my rock bottom was the moment that I decided to stop. And it was a 12-hour gambling binge. And I had taken cash advances out on my credit cards, maxing them out. And I had this wad of cash in my pocket. And I went to grab my phone and the cash fell out on the floor. And I panicked and tried to pick everything up. And I was like taking this deep breath. I was like, I hope I don't get robbed. I hope I picked everything up. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then I consider that my rock bottom because I had this thought of like, just throw the money back on the floor, dude. If you leave with this money and go back out there, I was in a casino, you're just going to lose it. Like, put it back on the floor. Someone might leave with it. And I call it my rock bottom because I had this thought of like, what is the point anymore? And I didn't have an answer. And so I would say it was a relief because it motivated me to not necessarily quit right then and there, but to never go back. The relief has been a long-term relief rather than a momentary relief. You don't have anyone to trust with your bank account. Is there a certain kind of account you can create so that it doesn't let you access it for a set time? Depends where you're living, Tyler. I know that there's a card called the TrueLink card that is supposed to have a similar effect to that. In some countries, you can literally contact your bank and say, "Don't allow me to take out more than X amount," or "Don't allow me to spend at XYZ places." In America, we love our freedom. Comes a little bit more difficult. But yeah, there are things that you can do to make it more difficult. Um, in a specific case where you have absolutely no one that you trust, I would challenge that and say, like, why don't you have anyone that you trust with it? And if like it really is just true and it's not like an excuse that you're making up so that you don't have to give up the control, I would have conversations with the bank itself and see what can be done about it. Do you think gambling ruined your life or made it better because it's allowed you to know what you want to do with my want out of my life? Uh, I think that any kind of negative situation can be turned into a positive in the right context. And so while I wouldn't want to relive the gambling itself, I've been able to turn that negative into a positive that has led to an entirely new life that I never anticipated. I would not recommend doing it, but what I would say is you can take any kind of experience in your life and turn it into something that provides meaning that helps someone else. Um, and so it's a weird question to try to answer with like a yes or a no or something like that. It's not so black and white, but I've been able to use it in a way that's helped me. Do I feel any particular way nowadays if I see a gambling ad? I feel sad knowing how many people are going to be fooled by it. I watch these ads in a very particular way through the mind of a marketer, marketeer. So fancy word. But I watch them in a way that I understand how they're manipulating the people that are watching it. And so I feel genuinely sad knowing just how much addiction is going to hit the country and the world. That's about it. But I want to say, guys, that was gonna be the last question here. I want to end this on a positive note. 945 days since my last bet, and you can be so too. The only difference between myself and you, if you're still gambling, is 945 days. The things that I've done haven't been remarkably spectacular in any way, but if you watch the video that's in the description of this YouTube video called "How I Stopped Gambling," it will show you exactly what I did during the last 2.5 years of my life to sustain recovery. I want to thank you for leaving comments, for asking questions, for leaving likes on the video, and of course, for subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much, and let's keep getting better together, one day at a time, everybody. Have a good day.